Top 10 strange connections between seemingly unrelated things. Students of the weird know to expect the unexpected, but cats that give people an edge in business. Predicting death because a person can and can't smell it. True stories. Children, strange connections are everywhere. Some have fascinating explanations, such as Scooby-Doo's connection to the RFK murder, but many others remain lost in thought and mystery. In any case, here are the 10 strangest couples in the world. Connection 10. Smell and death. There is an unsettling link between not being able to smell a flower, or anything else, for that matter, and death over the next 5 to 10 years. The warning sign appears in older people, and 28% of all cases can be attributed to dementia and Parkinson's disease, which often muffle a person's sense of smell. Most of the fatalities, the remaining 72%, were inexplicable. No one knows why their noses stopped working or why their life expectancy has decreased so dramatically. The strangest thing is that this phenomenon becomes more accurate in predicting death when it marks healthy old people. Connection 9. Low mood and high productivity. When feelings turn dark, the last advantage to expect is a complete to-do list. This is true for most people who either throw in the towel or perform poorly when they feel depressed. But for a select group, the moment their crab-shaped meter tips hit the red zone, it sharpens their focus and time management skills. This performance boost only works for people who usually hold negative emotions. On the other hand, people with short grumpy fits tend to be less effective during their bad mood. Curiously, none of them show a performance spike when they feel positive. The answer may be frustratingly mundane. Negative feelings can improve the performance of moody people compared to others because they are used to feeling this way. Such feelings do not upset or distract them as much as those who experience fewer dark days and therefore give in to them more easily. Connection 8. Low intelligence and pseudo-deep statements. Pseudo-deep statements are statements that sound deep and wise but don't make a sense. Here's an example: well-being requires research. To complete this mission is to become one with it, despite the uncertainty. Such lines convince too many people that they are a fantastic truth. Even during a recent experiment, when false statements were created by a random generator, they were taken at face value. Researchers who swung this wise-sounding bait in front of volunteers were trying to understand why people adore clichés without content. This, in turn, may explain why the same people tend to turn away from important, fact-based topics in science and medicine. An unfortunate connection was found in this study. Participants were carefully tested for intelligence, and those with the lowest scores were more likely to buy into this nonsense. They were also volunteers who were more likely to support unsubstantiated conspiracy theories and alternative medicine. Connection 7. Bottle feeding and left-handedness. The dominant human hand is partly determined by genes. What else causes left-handedness or right-handedness is a mystery. The researchers then followed 60,000 mothers for a year, starting immediately after the birth of their child. By the 9-month mark, a strange piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. Bottle feeding raises more left-handers. For some reason, this happened when babies were bottle-fed before the age of 6 months. But for each successive month of breastfeeding, more children became right-handed. This discovery did not solve the left-right puzzle, but it showed that the way Junior is fed can be one of the strongest factors affecting hand quality. Connection 6. More homework and poor test results. The goal of homework is to strengthen what is taught in the classroom. On average, American students are given 3.5 hours a day. Ironically, there is a chance that this kind of workload can negate what children are learning. In 2015, more than 7,700 teenagers from Spain took part in the study. The goal was to weigh their academic performance against the time they spend doing homework. Most of them did better on tests when their homework was limited to 1 hour each day. When another 40 minutes were added, the test results plummeted. However, it's not as simple as cutting back on homework and waiting for stellar grades. Other factors were involved. Teenagers who did better also completed their homework on more days than their peers, and those who received parental help actually did worse. In general, it seems that an hour of focused effort, performed on your own every day, is the way to better test results. Connection 5. Beards and punches. Charles Darwin's evolutionary theories include the human beard. According to him, this did not lead to anything. But beards are not as useless as Darwin made them out to be. There is a strong association between smearing on the face and fisticuffs, or perhaps getting hit in the face with a stick. Indeed, male skulls appear to have evolved to protect the face during a fight. If the bone structure can serve as personal protection, then beards can also play a similar role. This idea was tested on fake heads with a human-like bone structure. Covered in sheepskin, some of the heads were dressed in fully grown wool to mimic beards. Others had their skin cut off to see if the hair follicles offered any protection, while others had their skin stripped of all hair. They were beardless chins. Then the researchers started hitting the skulls with a stick. All beardless, and 95% of shorn faces were severely damaged. Only 45% of the bearded jaws were broken. This is good proof that beards still protect the face. How? Unanswered. It is likely that a thick beard could diffuse the blow by absorbing and spreading its energy over a large area. Connection 4. Painkillers and less empathy. Approximately 52 million Americans consume acetaminophen every week. This painkiller is marketed as Tylenol, and more than 600 medications contain it as an ingredient. In 2016, an alarming side effect was discovered. Acetaminophen appears to reduce people's empathy for other people. During the experiment, the volunteers drank the maximum allowable dose for 1 day. Then they read stories in which people suffered physically or emotionally. After that, they assessed how deeply they thought the characters had experienced the pain. The volunteers who took the placebo thought that the victims had a harder time doing it. Curiously, during the second test, participants who received acetaminophen also experienced less self-empathy. They were startled by the uncomfortably loud music, but again, it was the placebo group that was less appreciative. Not only for themselves but also for others, they felt even more strongly that this experience would be unpleasant for them as well. Why the drug dilutes empathy is not fully clear. Connection 3. Scooby-Doo and the RFK murder. In the 1960s, morning cartoons like Tom and Jerry lost popularity. To boost ratings, TV networks made the show more violent. Of course, kids loved the new sci-fi cartoons because they were filled with wall-to-wall action and violence. The first episode of Scooby-Doo aired in 1969. 4 teenagers and their talking Great Danes spawned a franchise that continues to this day. But the famous dog might never have seen the light of day if it hadn't been for the murder of Senator Robert F. Kennedy a year earlier. But back to the science fiction cartoons that aired before Scooby-Doo. Anti-violence organizations hated them, but needed the support of the community to remove these programs. This opportunity came when the Vietnam War, among other things, made violence too real for the public. The death of the RFK followed, as well as widespread panic about anything that might spoil morale, including TV shows. Activists gained support with gory statistics about cartoons and said that Kennedy wanted the children's program to be more innocent, which was true. To survive the public backlash, the networks abandoned science fiction for comedy. However, they still needed a cartoon with enough action to keep the kids hooked, and Scooby-Doo was born. The children liked the gruesome investigations of this gang, and the censors had nothing to complain about. Despite encounters with monsters, the characters were never violent or in any real danger. Connection 2. Hunger and daughters. Usually more boys are born than girls. This probably compensates for the higher death rate among men. But when life becomes difficult, more girls are born. Scientists have been trying to understand this trend for decades. In 1973, a group of scientists from Harvard suggested that women who do not have a good diet develop a biology that favors daughters. A Harvard study claimed that hunger reduces the number of healthy men who become fathers, but that most women can still reproduce despite their poor health. Infant girls ensure that more grandchildren are born if the famine continues for another generation. On the other hand, better times give more opportunities for sons to become fathers. This theory is supported by real hunger. During China's Great Socialist Leap, 30 million people died of starvation. During this time and the 2 years that followed the famine, more daughters were born. But hunger can't create the sex of a child, it's a job for the chromosomes. So, what's going on? Apparently, when the mother's blood sugar is unstable from starvation, more male fetuses are lost. Perhaps this is why more girls are born during disasters. Connection 1. Business-minded people and cats. Some cats carry a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii. This beetle is known for turning mice into fearless, and it makes them easy to catch, and for T. gondii to infect cats. Then cats can infect people. The researchers knew that the parasite probably changed human behavior. But did that make them more bold, like mice? The study examined databases and saliva samples from students and business professionals. The idea was to match the foragers with T. gondii infections. There were hundreds of positive cases. Among them, more students majored in business or studied entrepreneurship than their unaffected peers. Infected professionals also started their own businesses more often than others in their field. In positive cases, there were also more startups from the databases and fewer reports of fear that their businesses would fail. No one turned into risky zombies. However, the figures suggest that the pest affects entrepreneurs in an effort to succeed. If you like this video, please like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click on the bell to be the first to know about new videos on this channel.